morning. Welcome to another episode of Groovy Tuesday here in Kent. I'll give it a few minutes for people to start coming in. We'll get the all clear from Jilly. So I hope, let me, I'm going to move that mouse. That mouse is in the wrong position. That if I catch it, it will end the session. Oh dear. Short sleeve today. A bit fresher today than what it was at the weekend. They reckon the temperature's going to drop dramatically over the next few days. So, but I think we've had plenty of. I think they were forecasting a bit of snow a bit further north. So, yeah. I said to Barb this morning, I said, that's it. We've had summer. So here we all come. Good morning, Ken. Good morning, Jilly. Just had the all clear. Sound is great. Thank you, Jilly. So lovely Jilly is in the room with you today. So if you have any questions, then ask away. And I also know that the lovely Josie Davidson, the Queen of the Grids, will also be in the room as well. Good morning, Sharon. Good morning, Nicole. There we go. Lots of you coming in now. It's so nice to see so many friendly faces. And yeah, I know I said this before. Last Tuesday seemed such a long time ago. Had a really good day up at Create and Craft on Friday with the lovely Sam Crow. It was great to catch up with her. She's such a character, and there's so much talent and inspiration. And the complete opposite of me, because she's all painty and inky and messy, and I'm sort of like, oh no, I'm all clean and tidy. So I hope you managed to catch some of the shows. What did we do? We did 7 a.m. in the morning. Then Sam did 9 and 12 with her fantastic art journaling stamp sets. And then at 3 and 7, I did the beautiful brand new seasonal wreaths from Barb. So yeah, really, really good day on Friday. So if you did join in, thank you. If you're new to the Groovy Tuesday, welcome. It was great to have customers email in that they'd received their starter kit and already they'd made cards for Mother's Day. And it really did make my day when I saw that. And it just shows how easy and achievable it can be. So you can see the lovely Jane's in the room. Josie's in the room as well. Good morning, Dawn. Made it this time. So it doesn't matter though if what's time. I mean, you don't have to be on time. You can always watch it again over on our YouTube page. All of the episodes are recorded. So good morning, Monica. And yeah, so that's the great thing about these broadcasts is that you can watch them live if you're around at the time, or you can go back and watch them again and again and again, and you can fast forward all of this that we're going through now, and then you can just go to the bits where we're actually playing and coming up with designs and everything else. So I think it's really good, and it's all free as well. So sorry, I'm just waffling until people sort of join the room. So I hope you've got a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. And I thought while we're waiting, I thought we'd have a look at some of that beautiful artwork that the design team created using those seasonal wreaths. And you're thinking, seasonal wreaths, what's he going on about? Missed that. Let me show you the 4 different designs. Okay, we'll have a look on the overhead on this. There we go. So seasonal wreaths, names on the label. So you've got spring, summer, autumn, winter. So this is the plate. You may be familiar with them. They were stamps that Barbara launched earlier in the year. And due to popular demand, we've created and turned them into Groovi plates. So we've got spring, summer, autumn and winter. And you've got 2 halves of a wreath. So you've got this one here, it's got a bit of a daisy in, and then this one, which is more of sort of like a tendril. But what I love about these is that if you take both of these or you take both of these, then you can create a beautiful design. So that's bringing them closer together. If I bring those in side by side, you can see all I've done is I've just closed that gap up. Okay, you could obviously leave the gap wider if you choose to. It's entirely up to you. But then you can also take both of those, top and tail. Okay, or you can take the thinner one. So it depends what look you're after. And as Yanis said on TV the other day, you can just take this element and it could be, I mean, the designs are absolutely beautiful. And for me, these are sort of like your everyday essentials because you've got all the different bits and pieces on them. And then we've got Living for Summer Days. So this is the summer one with beautiful foxgloves. So when we have a look and we bring those closer together to join up the gap, you've got that design. Okay, using the finer part to create that one. And then finally, you could do, I mean, it depends, doesn't it? What way do you want it to go? And you can miss bits out and everything else. It's entirely up to you. Then we go into autumn. I know it's strange thinking of going into autumn. We've only just hit British summertime here in the UK. But I love these little deers, the little owls, the acorns. There's so many different elements to them. Bringing them together, you've got, I really like that design. I think, is that my favorite? I don't know. But I really like this because it just encapsulates, I think when I was on with Catherine, she said it's like going through one of those tree tunnels that if you're driving down country lanes. And there's a few of those down here in Edenbridge. When you go through the country lanes, you've got all the trees coming over. And then this one's is a weird one because they're in the reflection. So this one here is going clockwise and this one here is going anti-clockwise using the two different designs. And then finally we go on to winter. Lovely holly and then the mistletoe. But this foliage you could use throughout the year. Really, really beautiful designs. And then bring them both together and you get that. Or you take both of the mistletoe, and depending on how, I mean, that looks more like a square now, doesn't it? It's all about when you bring it together and what you choose to trace out. And then, see, I like this one as well, the holly. It's sort of, and just perfect for a sentiment. Really, really gorgeous. So they were the actual plates that we launched. And then I've got some samples here. So this one is from Francis Knott, and there's not a sign of a reef at all. Francis has just taken the elements using Linda Williams' easy layout plates. The next one is from Glynis. I really like this. I think the rainbow parchment and paper really helped to intensify the design on that one. Then the next one, oh, it's another one from Glynis. Now I love this one because Glynis has taken the hills and the mountains from the starter kit. Very, very beautiful. And the next one is from the lovely Sheila Bradley. She's put the little owl up there, created the landscape with the hills and mountains as well. And the next one is from Carol Baker. So she's created the reef using the finer detail, and then she's hung the foxgloves from it. Very clever. And I love this faux stitching effect. Really, really nice. One from Karen Jackson using the easy layout plates. Really, really nice. It's sort of like, so you could do some grid work in there if you choose to, or you can just fill it in with all the different design elements. Okay, and another one by Carol Paxton. I love this one. Let me bring it in on this camera here. Look at that. Perga glitter galore. Look at that. That's some sparkle, isn't it? Really, really nice. And I love the colorways. What papers does she use? Waimea Falls paper in the background. Really nice. Then we have another one from Francis using the holly and Linda's little feathered friends. I remember we did this at a workshop, creating the fluffy birds. That was so much fun. And then the final one, just to show, is this lovely one from Sheila. And just the background paper illuminates the area in the middle. So I just thought, while we're just all pulling up our chair and getting cozy and everything, I thought I'd just showcase those beautiful plates if you miss them, because I know on TV with design and sort of showing samples, we have to sort of go through them very quickly. So yeah. Okay. So let's have a bit of a recap on our journey that we've been going over. We're on week 5 now of Back to Basics with the grids. And if I bring in what we've been creating so far, we've been using the Queen Elizabeth grid, designed by the lovely Josie. And we kept it very simple by introducing these solid lines around the outside. And then last week we started on the picot cutting. And I said to you, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to do all of it or whether I just wanted to do top and tail, because that's where you get the flexibility of the design. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring it in on this camera so you can see that in a little bit more detail. See, I quite like just the top and tail. And if I come in, I'm going to lift it up now to the overhead so we're coming really, really close. See, even the perforated, where am I going that way? The perforated design, even if you haven't got to the level of doing your picot cutting yet, then you don't have to. The embossed design works, the perforating works on its own, the embossed and the perforating together works. And then if you choose to do the picot cutting, you can. Entirely up to you. Okay, so that's where we got to last week. And I mentioned that the lovely sunflower plate that Jim designed for all, where all proceeds go to the Red Cross for Ukraine. And so Barbara has been showcasing the stamp. You had a look at that last week in the Shack. And I thought we'd concentrate on the beautiful Groovi plate since it's Groovi Tuesday. Okay, so today, what I thought, Josie sent me an email this morning. I said there was a few people just wanted a little bit more clarification on the single needle tools and the various different scissors for picot cutting. So I made my notes and I thought we'd work through it nice and slowly. Okay, so let's just pop these plates to one side. Okay. Now, I'm going to bring in my super foam so it's there. I've got it in place. Now, when we're working with the Duet grids or any of our grids, whether it be the basic grids, the Duets, the borders, the holes have all been designed to use with a one needle bolt. And the reason they were designed with the one needle bolt was because when we first introduced our basic grids back in the day, we were new to perforating and picot cutting and everything else. So the straight and the diagonal were based on the bold needle. And the reason being is because it gives you a larger perforation. And if you're practicing when it comes to your picot cutting, a larger hole makes it easier. So all of the grids that we have in our collection, apart from the A4 Superfines, because Superfine says exactly what it is, uses the one needle bolt. Now, if you use a one needle fine when you're perforating through the grids, you won't get such a clean perforation because the needle's got too much of a movement. However, when we've been looking at the multi-needle tools that Linda was covering in the Pergamano Summer School, all of the needles in the multi-needle tool are what we call fine needles. So therefore, if you needed to reperforate, depending on the design, you would perforate with the one needle fine. Okay. Now, if some of the multi-needle tools didn't have as many needles and the spacing allowed between each of the needles, then you could use the one needle bolt. It's all about having a look at the design and practicing. And if you go back to the Pergamano school that Linda's covered, then Linda also explains about the difference on the sizes of the spacing between the tools. So I just thought we'd have a little bit of a recap, because Josie said there was a few questions on Groovi Worldwide, and I said I'd bring it up this morning and just have a little bit of a recap if you're tuning in for the first time. The other question that popped up was how to hold the scissors. Now let me get my scissors out of my bag. Hang on a moment. Whee, that's on the floor. Now, did I put my scissors back? I don't think I did any. Yes, I put them back in. Look, got them all in my bag. There we go. Okay, pop that to one side. So we have the three different types of Pergamano scissors. We have the exclusive, we have the ring lock, and then we have the Perga cutters. And what I'm going to zoom in on this bit, so just bear with me while I get the direction right. So I'm going to come in. Whee! That's really okay. So hopefully you can really see, he says, falling off his chair. That would have been fun. What you'll notice is that all of our scissors have this curve. Okay, so you've got that one, and that one. Okay, so in order to do the picot cutting, you do need to have scissors that have curves to them. Okay, and now it comes down to preference in what direction you have the curve. So I'm going to just demonstrate with the ring lock. So with the curve going upwards, we call that the spoon position. And with the curve going down, we call that the fork position. So if you look at a fork, it goes down, doesn't it? And a spoon goes up. So that's the easiest way, really, of explaining the difference in relation to holding them. Okay. Now, when I first started, I started with the exclusive scissors, and I used to hold the curve downwards. And the reason being was because that was a video tutorial that I found on YouTube. And the way in which you held them was that you took your two fingers and you popped them in through the top, and you went in, down, twist, and snip. Okay. And that was the way that the Pergamano tutors were taught. But it all comes down to preference on what you feel comfortable with. Now, as I say, I learned this way, and with the tip going down, I used to hold the parchment in my hand. So what that meant was, with the tip going down, I could feel how far the tips of the scissors were going into the perforations. Okay, because if you go in too far, what happens is that the actual blade on the scissors cuts the space between the two perforations. So that's the way that I learned, and I think Barbara learned the same way with it going down. And then as time progresses, and then you see Linda Williams, Josie Davidson, Tina Cox, all the experts out there, then they all hold the scissors differently. Some prefer to work on the flat, like I do now. Some prefer, Barbara still prefers to hold it in her hand because she feels that she has a better grasp of what she's doing. So for me, when I'm working, I tend to go more with the ring lock scissors, and I tend to have the curve going up. And what I do is I bring my thumb on my forefinger up from underneath, and then I use these fingers to balance. Okay, and then when I go into the perforations and come down slightly, it's more comfortable. Now I could come in and do it with the curve going down, in the fork position, but I find I get a better cut in the spoon position. So it's all about sort of practicing and having a go on what feels more comfortable for you. And that's why we've always said, just do a straight line with a load of perforations and practice. Try the different methods. And all of a sudden, what you'll find is that one, you'll find a more comfortable position in which to work. And two, you'll find whether you're better off going through the top of the scissors, underneath the scissors, curve going up, curve going down. But don't, what's that? Don't do a row and then do it and then go, right, that's one that works for me, and then go into your work. Practice first, because you're still in that warming up part of it. So I just thought I'd have a bit of a recap on the different scissors. So Josie, I hope I've covered everything that we were talking about this morning. And then what I thought we'd do, I'm going to carry on and we'll just have a refresher and we'll picot cut the rest of this design. Okay, so we're going to get this in the right position, because I thought it'd be really nice just to finish this off, and it gives us a good sort of standing for the rest of the hour. Are we okay with that? Okay, so what we're going to need our piece that we're working on. We're going to need our scissors of choice. I'm using the 12 by 12 super foam to work on. So it doesn't, whether you may have the Pico foam, you may be doing it on the light panel, and therefore you'd need the white foam so that you can see. Because often if I'm at home and I'm doing Pico cutting, my light isn't as good as what I have here in the studio. So what I can do is I can use the light panel to illuminate my work underneath. So let's have a look. Thank you, Josie. Josie said, yep, all covered. There we go. Thank you. So what we'll do is we'll have a look and we'll just have a recap. And it won't take long now, because remember we did these little bits last week and it took no time at all. Okay, so I wonder if I come in on the top. Let's have a look. So I need to get it into a position I feel more comfortable working. I'm going to take my Groovi guard to lean on, and let's have a look. And what we're going to do, we're going to go in one direction all the way along here, and we're going to do all of this top row first. So I'm holding my scissors from underneath. I'm in the spoon position, and I'm just going to pop the tips. I need my glasses. Where are my glasses? Wouldn't it be clever if you could magnify it on the screen in front of you and picot cut that way? That would be some skill, wouldn't it? I don't think I could do that. That'd feel really disjointed. Okay, glasses at the ready. So make sure you got your glasses on, or your magnifying glass. Okay. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to come in and we're going to squeeze. So it is the tips of the scissors that are doing the work. So you come in, squeeze, and then you snip. And it's that sound, that very satisfying sound that you get when it snips. Now I should have done my warm-up exercise first. I did a little bit. Obviously I've been chatting for a while now, so but once you get into it, it really doesn't take that long. And it's not a race. You go at whatever pace you feel comfortable with. You may decide you just want to do one side and then stop. So there we go. So we're just slowly moving along. And you'll notice that I'm just tilting mine slightly towards me. Some people, if they tilt and snip away from them, or they'll go from bottom to top. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn my work because my hand is comfortable. Okay. And we're going to go along in this direction. Now, in each of the various different duet grids that Josie designs, you get your cutting guide as well. And it is just that, it is a guide. You may already look at the design and go, yeah, I know exactly where I need to cut, and that's fine, you can do that as well. But if you're just starting out, then you always have those written instructions. Over the past month, Josie has been doing, who follows the Clarity Matters blog that Grace creates every week? On a Saturday, she does a Saturday share with all of your beautiful artwork. And then on a Sunday, the fantastic design team put together a pictorial and written step-by-step project. And over the past month, Josie's worked her magic with some of the various different duet grids and sort of broken it down to show what you can do with it. So if you've not seen it, or don't forget, sign up to our newsletter, you'll get notified. It normally goes out about 12 midday on a Sunday, but it's there, and it's a library full of beautiful step-by-step projects. So let's come forward a bit now. Okay, so where am I about there? And as you can see, it really doesn't take, some of these are not perfect, but you know what? It's the overall effect that we're looking for. Some seem to be better than others, but this is more forgiving than doing a straight line. If you do a straight line, it's like anything, isn't it? If you have a straight line in front of you and it's a little bit wonky, your eye is automatically drawn to that. So now we're going to turn it round and we're going to go, where are we going? We're going to go across the top now. And you may decide that you want to do each of these little sections one at a time and turn your parchment as you go round. But you'll find that you'll get a better rhythm by doing it all in one direction first. And then the magic happens when you do the fourth side and it falls away. Okay. Yeah, look at this. Oh, done that one. But I love the snipping sound. It's just so, it's like a ticking clock. And then I'm going to turn my work around, and then we're on the fourth side now. So let me bring this in that way, and we'll bring the parchment up to there. Hey, too far. Okay, so this is the fourth side now. And all of a sudden, it's going to fall away to reveal the beautiful little aperture. So who's been crafting along with me over the past few weeks? Who's been using the Queen Elizabeth plate, or have been using a different plate from your collection? I know when I spoke to Josie, when we said I was going to be looking at the grids, and I asked which one would be a really good one to start with. We both agreed that the Queen Elizabeth was a really nice one to get started with, and it's perfect for the Queen's Jubilee coming up later this year. So, I mean, you may decide you want to make a card for Her Majesty and send it to her. See? How are we doing on the picture? Despite the fact it's a little bit fresher today, it's quite warm in here today. I'm glad I've definitely got a short sleeve shirt on. So we're going to move up now. But you can see as it's starting to fall away, it's creating these little apertures. And this is just the start of creating beautiful lacework easily, because Josie has done all the counting, all the design. All we have to do is interpret that with some embossing, some perforating, and picot cutting. And it doesn't take long. I mean, if you think about it, I know we've broken this down over the last couple of weeks, but if you was doing this at home, then you may decide you wanted to do it all in one go. There we go. Did I miss that one? One little snip just there. So now we've got 3 sides done. How long did that take? It didn't take too long, did it? There we go. See? And then what we'll do, we'll get rid of all these little crumbs off the mat. And then we can do the other side. And I'm going to do exactly the same. Where are we going? I'm going to start across this top row first. The hand's really warmed up now. So this side should be absolutely perfect. Well, define perfect. We're our own worst critics, aren't we? And I know when I've seen Linda and Josie create pieces of artwork, and there's a slight bit out, and they go, "Oh no, we've got to start again." No, you haven't. You haven't. If you enjoy what you're doing, and this is a distraction from what's going on outside in the local neighborhood, then it's all about just chilling out. Just as Barb was saying yesterday, just for an hour, getting together and having a play. I mean, that artwork that Barbara created yesterday, and she showed me the finished, not the finished piece, the piece that she showed you in the shack. And it always amazes me how easy it is, if that sort of makes sense, because Barbara creates this piece of artwork and then breaks it down to make it achievable for everybody. And I've seen comments on Facebook over the past couple of years since lockdown, and how people thought that they'd never be able to draw, they'd never be able to colour. And with the help and guidance of Barb, all of a sudden, you've all become beautiful illustrators, colorists, artists, creators. And when you think, it all starts with a plain piece of paper. And it's the same really with the Groovi. We're starting with a plain piece of parchment and we're creating something. With the Groovi, we had the advantage of having the designs on the plate. And it doesn't matter if we can draw or not, because that's the beauty of the Groovi, is that it allows you to draw, it allows you to create. And I think that's the enjoyment I get out of Groovi, is that it is easy, it's relaxing. I mean, I know when I'm doing TV shows, or like now, Groovy Tuesday, and I'm talking, I know that my voice, the tone of my voice changes. Whoops, went out camera there. I know that. And so you imagine I'm at home and I'm getting in the groove and I'm just listening to the TV or the music in the background. I don't need to talk. because I can just concentrate on what I'm doing. Gosh, I sound like a hypnotist, don't I? My voice is getting slower and slower, and you will fall under the Groovi spell. You will fall. You've already fallen under the Groovi spell. You've already got the... We need to think of a word rather than addiction. Answers on a postcard. Another word for addiction. So that goes with Groovi. And then we're going to turn it round and we're going to work on the last side now. And it's just a case of going in and completing it. So yes, so I reckon we should try and come up with another name rather than Groovi addiction, because I know I say it on TV as well. I mean, it's a lovely addiction to have. I mean, there's no weight gain. Doesn't matter whether you're dressed or you're not dressed. You can do it any time of the day. You can do it in most places. I mean, I wouldn't try and do picot cutting whilst being a passenger in a car or on a bus, but the tracing out I could do on a train, or probably do picot cutting on a train. I suppose it depends what line it is, doesn't it? I think we need to... That could be the challenge for next week, I think. Come up with another word. Now, don't forget, if you've purchased the beautiful sunflower designs that Jim created, where the proceeds are being donated to the Red Cross for Ukraine, don't forget, Barb said that if you send a card in, you can add a donation to that if you choose to. And all of that will be added to, I think Barb said yesterday, we've already sent off over £4,000 to the Red Cross based on the purchase of the sunflower stamps and the sunflower Groovi plates. That is just awesome. It really is. Gilly's just sent me a text, and apparently a good place not to do your picot cutting or your Groovi is in the bath. That's a very good point, Jane, because I'm sure the steam coming off the bath would cause the parchment to curl. Oh dear. Okay, I've got to take these glasses off now. I can't look up at the screen. That's probably one of the only, well, not one of the only places. That's probably a place, yeah, I wouldn't advise doing your parching in the bath. Okay, let's have a look at this now. Look, I love that. I love the elegance and the simplicity. Let me come over this way. And the simplicity of the design. Seeing the embossed on, and you don't have to perforate all of it. Let's get the camera angle right. Where's that camera? It's there. There we go. But it just adds that touch of elegance. It really, really does. So what's Phyllis saying? Phyllis is saying, my practice pieces are always perfect. Then on the finished parchment, it's a disaster. Okay, so think about it in a different way, because sometimes it can be psychological, can't it? And Sam made a really good point on TV on Friday. She said, sometimes if a friend comes to you and said, oh, can you make me a card for such and such? They like this, 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 and this. And then I know from experience myself exactly what Sam said. If someone came to me and said, oh, could you make a card for Uncle Dave or someone? and he likes gardening, I could have all the craft stash in my studio and I still wouldn't know what to make or where to start. But if you make a piece of art for the sake of for just making it, it's easier. So for example, Sam often says that she makes loads of backgrounds all in one go, and then she'll put the pieces together, and then she'll say, right, this card is perfect for that person, this card will be perfect for that person. So when you're talking about when you do your practice piece, it's perfect, but you go to your finished piece and it's not, think about the other way. Think that the practice piece is your finished piece, and then your finished piece is your practice piece. See if that works, because something as simple as just rethinking can really make a difference. So yeah, maybe give that a go. That is funny though, especially, I mean, and it is exactly what Sam says. And I've been there myself many years ago when I used to make cards to order, and someone said, oh, I need a card for such and such, and they like this, and it could take me hours. Whereas I know back in the day when I used to make samples for Clarity, when I was on the design team, although the end purpose was that it was to showcase the product and for them to make beautiful samples, there wasn't any pressure, so to speak. It wouldn't be as if, like, if I'm making a card for my mum and I knew that she liked this particular flower, and then I'd go through my stash, oh, is this the right flower? No, then the colour. So it's all about, it really is, sometimes just getting some plates out, having a play, create the pieces, and then pop them to one side. And then when the birthdays come up, then you've got a piece ready. And it's the same with these frames. You could have a session of just creating some beautiful frames, pop them into a folder, and then when you create a piece of artwork, then you've got your frame to go with it. Okay. Now I wanted to give you a few finishing tricks on this. So I'm just going to, let's go back to the overhead, and I'm going to zoom out a bit now. So let's come out. There we go. Okay. Now, as we said before, where's that little piece? Where's that piece of artwork that Josie had created? And this just shows the difference between what we've created and what Josie's created. Okay. Oh, Josie, you missed a bit. Oh no. I've just noticed that. It needs one little snip. Oh, Josie. Let me just snip this out. Isn't that funny? It's been here all that time, and I've just noticed that that one piece was hanging in by a thread. There we go. Okay. So we've created exactly the same design. Josie's just extended it by one further row. So if we have a look, bring it down. So Josie's just extended it by one. But what she's done is she's picot cut all the way around the outside. Now, if we're looking at the plates, okay, Barb's idea when we first introduced the duets was to introduce these double lines, so that if you hadn't got that far in your bust journey for your picot cutting, then you could introduce these lines and then trim it down. So that's what we're going to do with this piece. Okay. So let me put Josie's masterpiece to one side. And to do that, what we're going to do, I'm going to bring in I'm not going to cut onto my black mat that I'm working on. I'm going to bring in just an old cutting mat. So this is the blue Groovi mat that we have available on the website. Quick guzzle of coffee. Okay. Pergamano ruler. Steel edge to it. for when you're using a craft knife, because if you cut across the edge that's just the acrylic, what you'll find is that your blade can cut into the edge, and then if you then want to draw a straight line, you'll never ever get a straight line again. Okay, now there's some magic with the Pergamano ruler. If I position this on here, see how it's sort of easily sliding around, because that's the purpose of the ruler, so you can move it around and with ease. Okay, but the magic comes in for you. I don't know if you'll see this. This is Groovi grip. There we go, you can see. Okay, now it comes in A4 sheets, and you just cut a sliver down just so that it's a little bit narrower than the ruler, and you put it on your ruler. Okay, it's not sticky, not sticky at all, but now when I apply a little bit of pressure, look, my finger's moving, but the ruler's not. Okay, and Barb sourced this because I did a TV show once with a ruler, and I wanted to trim down because I wasn't even at that picot cutting stage, and I took my craft knife and I took my ruler, and as I came towards me, the ruler slipped and I cut straight into the artwork. Okay, not good. Not if you spent the time creating a beautiful piece of artwork. One of the other great things about the ruler is that you've got all these grids on here. If I take a piece of black paper, no, that doesn't show it up. Take a piece of white paper. There we go, yeah. So you can see you've got all these grids. So these are perfect for creating an equal space around, like for your matting and layering. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to grab my craft knife. I bet it's still in my bag. Excuse me. Now, what I would suggest is that if you're not so confident with a craft knife, then use a paper trimmer, okay, or a guillotine. It's entirely up to you. But if you want to try using the Groovi grip with the ruler and a craft knife, then what I would suggest is just trace out a panel on a scrap of parchment, can be any size, and practice on that first. Don't practice, if you've never done it before, don't practice on this. Practice on a scrap piece of parchment with a box traced out. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the grid lines to line up my ruler. Okay, so I'm lining up the straight line across the straight line at the bottom. I'm on the straight line just up there, and I've got my metal edge along here. I'm going to take my craft knife, and there's no rule to say you have to cut through the parchment in one go. If you keep going over in the same area, it will eventually cut. Okay. There we go. So that's one side done. We're going to turn it around. Let's get rid of this Groovi tab. That's been on there a while. I can't remember what we put it on there. Oh, it's just to show where we started doing the white work, wasn't it? Then we're going to line up in exactly the same position using the pink lines to make sure that we're nice and we're at a nice right angle. And then this time I'm going to do it in one cut. Turn it round. But make sure that you do have the Groovi grip on the back of the ruler. Now my other piece of Groovi grip is on my light panel. And that stops, if I'm working, that stops my plates sliding around. And I'm sure there's lots of other uses for the Groovi grip, but when it comes to parchment, then this is where it's really key. Okay, so now I've got an equal border all the way around the outside. Okay, now my choice was to have a border all the way around the outside. If I wanted to, I could have come in closer. But sometimes if you come in too close, you can catch the white line. So just as a safety measure, just do that. Okay. So now we've created our piece of our frame now, so we can decide what we want to do with it. So I was going through my desk, and I had a piece of rainbow paper left over from the other day. So if I pop that on there, that wasn't coincidence at all. It's just the right width, but I can move it around and decide whether I want to go more into the pink or more into the yellow and blue. I think I'm going to go more into the yellow and blue. So then all I'm going to do, I'm just going to mark it about there. I'm going to take my paper trimmer, which is lurking over here. Okay. I could do it with the ruler, but it's just quicker. Don't cut through your artwork. Bring that in. Trim that down. Okay. Let's take that and that over to the other side. So now, let's bring that in. I've got that. So let's bring it in on this camera. So I've got, so the colour comes through those little apertures. And then we've got our little topper that we're going to create. Where's that gone? Where's my beautiful, there we go. See, if I pop that on top now, see it sort of stands out a little bit more. But I could take another piece of paper, the same size, so I could go, let's have a look, do you want to go that way? I think we want to go that way. So let me trim this down. So we've got roughly the same size. So that's about 9. Okay. And then it's about just under 2.5 inches. Is it 2.5? I'm trying to cut this up now, it'd be the wrong size. Just about there. So I could pop that on there. I should have used my dies to do that. So it's exactly the same size. And pop that on there. Okay. Really, really easy. So in order to create our little topper, I think this piece would be this would be really nice. I mean, you could just do that on its own, and you've got a beautiful piece of artwork. Okay, so how do we create this piece? I know time's really going to disappear again, doesn't it? So what we're going to do, I'm going to take my plate mate, and I'm going to take my sunflower, and we're just going to attach that. Where's those Groovi tabs? Now I've taken a piece of parchment. I did have a spare piece here. Why does things disappear? It always gets buried, doesn't it, when you're looking for it? I had a spare piece. I know I did. Right. Regroup, Mr. Church. Regroup. Right. Decant everything. Right. Let's clear some of this mess. It's just as bad as being on TV. So I've got one that says happy birthday. I've got that beautiful piece that Josie created. I've got my Groovi guard. Okay. Got the bag. That's scrap parchment. That's my warm up. That's a larger piece. You watch it, it's going to be right at the bottom, isn't it? No, I think the Groovi fairies have grabbed it. Okay, panic ye not. What we're going to do, we're going to take a piece of parchment and we're going to trim it down to the same size as the panel in the middle. Okay, so you could use the Pico rectangles to do this. So let's just have a look. So it's about 2 3/4. There we go. I would have done it with the Picos, but I haven't got my machine plugged in. And then it is just under 3 3/4. Okay. So now that will fit in there. Okay. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. Tumble dry sheet. Let's wipe our piece of parchment. And then what we're going to do, we're going to position it so that the greeting, or the verse, is in the middle of the panel. Okay. So who at home has got this plate? I'm sure lots of you have. So that's now in place. I'm going to take my number 1 tool. I'm going to take my Groovi guard. So what I need you to do, I don't need you to do anything. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? If you'd like to, let's create a panel before next week. And what we're going to do next week is we're going to introduce some colour. So we'll use, I haven't decided whether we'll go with the Perga colour pens or the Perga liner pencils. But we're just going to keep it very simple. We're not going to learn any blending or anything like that. We're just going to apply some colour to the design. Okay. And we're going to, so you can come up with various different designs. It just needs to be a piece that's going to fit inside your frame that you've created. Okay. Maybe you can do a couple. You might have a couple on the go that you want to play with. Try different combinations. I mean, I'm doing mine portrait. You may decide to do yours landscape. You may decide not to use the sentiment and just use the beautiful sunflowers. There were some pieces that Barb showed off yesterday from the stamps where she said what reminded her with the larger sunflower and the smaller one was a parent and a child, a mother and a son, a mother and a daughter, a father, and that really spoke to me. That really sort of symbolized, I think, the beauty of the designs and the way in which Jim created them works perfectly for that. Okay, so I'm just going to do the sentiment on this one just to get started, because as always with Groovi, time just disappears. Okay, make art, not war. And in order, what I did with my piece was I just lined up the sunflowers and filled the top and then turned it round and did the bottom. But if you want to, you could come in or go out, so to speak, and just do half of them to create a frame down the sides. And when you look at the designs, I mean, you could take, you could just take, see, it's the same with the stamps. If this was a piece of card, you could off stamp. You can create a complete, if you've got a square, you can do that as well. it's just, yeah, it's quite just the symbol of the sunflower and the whole reason behind it is quite, yeah. Okay. Whew. Dum, dum, dum. So hopefully you have something similar to this, whether you've used the Elizabeth plate, whether you've used one of the other ones. You may have gone rectangular. You may have gone portrait, landscape. You may have gone square. It's all about just breaking it down and showing the versatility of the designs that Josie's created. And for me, what makes a big difference is the addition of these double lines. Because I don't have to picot cut all around the outside if I don't want to. If I just want to show off my skill in a smaller area and just do the picot cutting within those panels, then I can. But if I want to be a Josie, so to speak, I can do that as well. See what Josie's done, she's introduced a second set of perforations on the inside using the basic grid. Oh, no, they're actually on the plate, aren't they? Yes, they are on the plate. Yeah, they're on there. So using the perforations, let's bring that over, within there, which sits on the outside of that dotted pattern, if you really wanted to, you could picot cut all of that, and then you'd have what we call a floppy frame rather than a panel. The choices are endless, they really are. Just creating a border. Imagine that just down the edge of a card. Say this was your card blank and you just wanted to create a panel or an edge just down the edge of your card. Just as beautiful. It really is. Oh dear. Okay. So once again, the time flies by. Next week, we're definitely going to do some colouring. So have a couple of different panels together of different designs. If you haven't got that plate, then find something else. Maybe you've got one of our beautiful alphabets that you want to put a sentiment in and we want to put some colour in. Maybe you've got some of the other designs and you've just got, it's just your centerpiece. And we'll have a look at some different colouring techniques. Very simple, very basic. So if you're brand new to the Groovi system and you're brand new to, I'm not going to start blending here and blending there. I'm going to keep it really simple just to show a few little tips and tricks. So what else have we got on the agenda? So Thursday, we're back in the Shack with Barb, and I believe you're inking up that beautiful floral. It reminds me of corsage. The design of it, it was like a corsage or like a wedding bouquet. So yeah, I think you're inking up on working on that on Thursday. So I'll be in the room with you. So if you've got any questions on Thursday, then feel free to ask along. And then Barb's on TV on Sunday in the new slot of 3 till 5 o'clock. And don't forget to check out the Clarity Matters blog at 12 o'clock every Sunday for a fantastic step-by-step tutorial by the marvelous design team. And this week I think we're continuing on with the Gridwork, and I think it's a piece from Glynis. So thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed today and you've got something out of it, and I will see you again next Tuesday for another episode of Groovy Tuesday. So take care now, and I'll see you all next week. Bye bye.